Got a fancy new intro. That's right. So Startup Grind is all about education, inspiration, and connection. And a lot of you have been here before, so this is old hat, but for those new in the house, I'm going to explain what it is. It's a connected network of more than 500 Startup Grind chapters. And we're Startup Grind Chilliwack doing our thing. And it's really interconnected, brought to you by Startup or Google for Startups, so it's really part of something pretty awesome. There's 3 values: make friends, give first, and help others. And we've got 3 great sponsors involved all year long in 2019, the Chilliwack Economic Partners, Accelerator, and the University of the Fraser Valley. Let's hear it for these fine folks. And on the partner side, these are the sweat equity folks that are rolling up their sleeves and making it happen. There's Cowork Chilliwack, Currency Marketing, Wisebox, and Around Chilliwack. Let's hear it for those folks. And if you are posting anything to social media, use the Startup Grind hashtag. That's part of the overall global hashtag that's used. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our great guest tonight. The founder of Fiitfu CRM Solutions, Mary-Jane Mehlenbacher, is our guest for this month's Fireside Chat. We'll discuss how she transitioned from a career in sales and marketing to founding and growing a software product company. Please help me welcome Mary-Jane Mehlenbacher. On your feet, come on up. All right. Fantastic. All right. Have a seat.
Thank you. I feel like I'm on the Debaters. Has anybody watched the Debaters? I saw them live for the first time this year. It was awesome.
Cool. Well, I thought I'd break this down into 3 parts. We had a pre-interview, and you've got so much interesting knowledge that we're going to kind of fast forward over your early days,
Sure.
then get in the founding of Fiitfu, and then just some general sales and marketing advice, because you were just reeling off lots of great stuff, and I felt like I needed to be writing it down.
Okay.
This way I'll be recording it and can watch it back later.
Okay, great.
So early career in sales and marketing. If you even go back before then, tell me about your family, and was there some entrepreneurship going on?
Oh yeah, there was a lot of entrepreneurship. I think when we were talking on the phone, I was telling you about how I used to go door to door to sell my toys so I could afford to go to the P&E. So my father's an entrepreneur. My mom's always been very good with finding ways of making money, and with 3 kids, and she was a single mom raising us. And so I used to sell my toys door to door, whatever I didn't want anymore, and I would raise funds for doing things like the P&E. And then my girlfriend and I started doing car washes, and we made a lot of money doing that. And then we even made puppet shows for the kids in the neighborhood, and we used to make the kids go home and get $1 from their mom. Back then, there was a lot of money, and then they had to come back and pay us before we would let them watch the show. So,
Where did that come from? Did your parents push you to do this, or you figured it out?
I was money motivated.
Okay.
Yeah, I was money motivated. Yeah, I
Cool.
wanted to go to the P&E, and if we couldn't afford it, I was going to make it happen somehow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Born and raised in Vancouver?
Born and raised, born in Richmond, raised in Vancouver, moved to Toronto for a short stint, and then back to BC. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And you finished high school. Where did you go to university or college?
So I went to BCIT in sales and marketing there, and graduated from BCIT in 89, I guess it was, in 89, and went right into selling. So I've been selling for a long time, yes.
What were some of the early companies you worked for?
Oh, I worked for some fun companies to start. I did my practicum with Andre's Wines, so it was fun when you're 20 years old. And then from Andre's Wines, I went to Shaftesbury, a brewing, if anybody remembers Shaftesbury. Yeah, great beer. And from there, I also worked for Cantel at the time. It was Cantel, Rogers, and then went to the Yellow Pages, and that was my...
So did you have the big Michael Douglas?
I should have brought, I was talking to you about it. Yeah, that big block, the Motorola, looked like a brick. Yeah, I think I still have one of those in my closet or my attic. So yeah, we would sit around, all of us kids that were like in our early 20s, making lots of money selling these cell phones, and we're all at, I'm going off topic here.
That's fine.
But we're all down at the Granville Island, what's it called, the bridge? Anyways, it's right on the water, the bar. Oh, and this is a good story, you should turn it up. So that's probably 5 of us. So we all have our brick on the table, and we're all standing outside with our glass of wine or whatever we're drinking, and somebody's phone rings. It must have looked ridiculous because all at the same time in unison we all pick up our cell phones. We must have looked ridiculous, but we thought we were super cool. But that was the time when we were selling cell phones. The Motorola flip phones were about $5,000 each. And I got a call one day in my office, and we had these calls that would come in randomly, and they would just be sent out to us, like as salespeople, whoever was around or on duty that day. And it was a woman that wanted to buy 5 of them. So this was a big sale,
Wow.
5 at $5,000 each. So I said, sure. I said, where are you? Can you come to my office? She goes, well, can you come to me? I'm staying at the Pan Pacific. And I said, whoa, all right. So I went to the Pan Pacific with my 5 phones, and they were all activated and ready to go, and I was going to go there and show her how to use it. And so I phone her, and I'm saying, I'm here. And she says, okay, Grandma, I'm in this room, blah, blah, blah. So I go up to her room, open the door. It's a baby grand piano. It's 2 levels. It's like she's showing me around the showers with windows to the outside. It was absolutely amazing. And I left, and she gave me cash. I was freaked out. I was so scared. I think I was sweating bullets getting back to the office. I thought that somebody was going to rob me or it was a setup or something, but it wasn't. I made it back safe and sound, and she bought my phones, and I guess she thought it was a really good deal because she was in Canada paying Canadian dollars instead of US.
Wow.
But yeah, so that was kind of exciting, some exciting times. Yeah, so.
So those are organizations with real sales culture and systems. Did they train you beyond what you'd learn at college? Or?
Yeah, and beyond with going door to door with my toys, yeah. So I was really lucky to work with these large organizations because their succession planning, number one, is fantastic. They're always training. They always want to bring people up from sales into management, or majority of them did. But the sales training that you had as well was really, really good. And especially with the Yellow Pages, that's the one I probably remember the most because it was the most recent. And my brain can't go that far back. But really, really great training in regards to different personality styles and how to connect with those people, or mirroring customers, that sort of thing. Even, how to close properly, or how to ask the right questions, how to do fact finding, so that when I talk to you and you want to buy a car, I'm not going to tell you about Bluetooth if you've never heard of Bluetooth before. And I use that as an example because when I was buying, I think it was my Mercedes a few years ago, all the guy kept saying to me is, oh, the Bluetooth, it's got Bluetooth. And I'm like, I don't even know what the hell Bluetooth is at the time. I had no idea. And so you learn these things about selling and about listening, and you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, and how you have to ask the right questions to find out what their needs are so you can overcome any objections. And those were the kind of things that you learned when you did these trainings, and you listened to what they had to say, and you practice and you practice and you practice, and you just keep going over and over again. And the other key element with a large organization, which you can use in your small organization too, is actually doing a lot of shadowing. So if you have salespeople, or if you are a salesperson, or you want to bring a salesperson in, it's so good to shadow with them so that when you leave, you can say, this is what you did really well, but when he said X, that's when you could have found out a little bit more information, so you could have overcome that objection. So that's where some of these larger organizations are fantastic, because they do give you that training, which you'll have forever, no matter what you're going to be selling or doing.
So you mentioned the Yellow Pages, and that was a real experience, and where you rose very high in the organization, and then sort of the winds of tide came, and Google and so forth. Can you tell us that story?
Sure, yeah. I worked with the Yellow Pages overall for 10 years. And during the time that I was there, it was Domain Directory, Super Pages, Yellow Pages, owned by Verizon, then owned by another conglomerate that sold us. And during the time when they sold us to another finance company, we went through a massive restructuring. And as I was part of the management team at the time, I was also pregnant at the time, I was part of letting over 500 people go from their jobs in our office in Burnaby, one office. So it was very stressful time, and very difficult to watch. My brother worked there at the time. He was higher management than I was, and he was let go before me. And it was very difficult because my boss let him go, but she didn't tell me. I found out through somebody else, and it was really gross. So anyways, Am I answering your question?
Yeah, no, keep going.
Okay, so I was pregnant at the time, so I'm dealing with a lot of stress, and I'm still managing my team of 7 reps, and I start feeling these contractions at 5 weeks before she's actually due, my daughter's due. So I'm talking to one of my reps that's like, 30 years old, going, Ellen, I think I'm having contractions. He's like, oh, what do I do? I don't know what to do. So I'm like, just time how often my contractions are coming up. So anyways, long story short, went to go see my OB that day, started bleeding that night, went to the hospital that night, delivered her that night in about an hour and a half. So it was awful. Anyways, it was terrible, worst experience. But she was totally healthy. But I truly believe that it was completely stress related, that she came so early. And so that's one of the downfalls to working with a large organization is that there can be a lot of stress that you can't control. At least in your business, you can control your stress, or you can try to control your stress. You have a lot more opportunity to control it. But in this situation, I had zero control. I had to let people go. I could have quit. That would have been an option, I suppose, but I didn't choose that option. I stayed, and I helped the management team do what we had to do. And then when I was on mat leave, I got let go.
Wow.
Yeah. So it just goes to show that, you're not always control of your own destiny when you are working for somebody else.
So that Yellow Pages model, where it was these big books that were dropped on your doorstep, and it was just a going concern with...
Yeah.
Talk to me about, what was it like being in those executive meetings? Did you guys see this coming? Were you talking about digital? Was the internet even on the radar?
So I was part of more the sales management side, so I wasn't involved in a lot of oh my gosh, where's our market going to go?
Right.
But I was involved in a lot of the neat thing about it, I'm sure there was a lot of sweating bullets when it was coming to oh my gosh, our sales are going low with the paper advertising. What are we going to do? So we started to introduce doing websites. We started to introduce doing advertising online with our online thing. And so, the people that got it were on their phones talking to their major accounts going, this is what we've got. It's $5,000. You should book it right now because there's going to be very few available. And so it was really interesting to watch. Some people were able to change the focus really fast, and others were really stuck. They weren't able to move forward and to think that times are changing and I have to change what I'm selling. Because that Yellow Pages, there was people there were there for 20, 30 years selling and doing a really good job, and there was a lot of changes happening with that. So it is interesting now, I see my Yellow Pages, and I'm sorry anybody if they're watching this later that works for the Yellow Pages, but if I get it, I put it directly into the recycle bin, and I don't keep them in my house. Yeah, so a really big change in the industry, but Yellow Pages was able to turn that around and to start making money in other ways. Yeah.
And so your daughter was fine?
Daughter was fine, yeah, she was great. And so I guess I was about 3 months into my mat leave that I was let go. My manager called me and she said, can you come into my office today? And I'm like, are you kidding? I have a 3-month-old baby. No, maybe I can come in tomorrow or the next day. So I said, listen, is this what's happening? And she said, yeah, it is. I said, I don't need to come in and see you. Just give me my package and I'll go. So I was introduced to direct sales at that time. So I investigated this company that was coming from the US into Canada. And what I saw was dollar signs, because remember, I'm money motivated, right? I had no idea about the products. I was like, I don't know, skincare or makeup. I don't wear that much makeup, and I don't think I use a pair of soap for my face. But it was a good opportunity. And so I researched it, and I said, okay, I'm in. So I started selling this product, and I started making money, and I started building a team, and I started realizing that, man, these people don't have any idea how to track their customers, how to follow up with their customers, how to even remember who they sold to or what they sold to them, or how they met them. And I was like, there's got to be a tool out there for them that they can use. Because when I was at Yellow Pages, we had a very good CRM that managed our customers for us. We always knew who our customers were and when we had to reach out to them and that sort of thing. In direct sales, there was nothing. So that's where I came up with the idea of Fiitfu, which stands for Fortune is in the follow-up.
Got it.
Yeah.
And you're jumping ahead a little bit.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Hang back just a touch. For those that aren't familiar with what direct sales is, can you explain what that whole market is?
Yeah. So has anybody here heard of Amway? Yeah, yeah. So Amway is kind of a traditional network marketing or multi-level marketing. So there's an old name would be multi-level marketing. Some people think it's like a pyramid scheme because it looks like this. Person, 2 people, 3 people, blah, blah, blah. But isn't that kind of what a structure looks like at a corporation too? CEO, upper management, middle management, right? Same sort of thing. However, the pyramids are illegal. So unfortunately, it's got a bit of a bad name. So MLM, network marketing, direct sales, we kind of all call it direct sales now. So I sell a product to you and I'll make a commission based on what I'm selling to you. And then you say to me, I want to do this business too. And I say, great, I'm going to teach you how to do this business. And in teaching Tim how to do this business, I'm going to make a little percentage of what he does. And then he teaches 2 people and I still make a little percentage of what they do because I'm teaching them, I'm coaching them. So it's like that company's actually paying me to coach because they don't have sales coaches that deal with everybody, right? So direct selling, Beauty Counter, Amway, Norwex, Pampered Chef, Tupperware, maybe. Jockey actually created a network marketing element. There's tea companies, there's food companies, there's Legal Shield is a direct sales company. There's all these different direct sales companies out there. And Hallmark even created a element of direct sales too. So there's all these different companies that are kind of going non-traditional and going into direct sales. And so direct sales is just you saying, I love this product. I'm going to tell a few friends. I'm going to sell directly to them. I'm going to bypass having you've got the manufacturer. Instead of the manufacturer going to the distribution, going to a reseller and then a wholesaler and then a salesperson, then a bay or something like that. And then you have to pay for your space and blah, blah, blah. You're just bypassing all of that. It's going direct from the manufacturer to you, to the customer.
So are each individual salesperson essentially their own business?
They sure are, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're independent contractors and they've decided that I'm going to market this particular product.
Yep. Yep.
And it seems to me as an outsider that it's largely female. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the marketplace, one of the top products that's sold is skincare and makeup. And so 73.5% of people that are in direct sales are female. Yeah.
And it's all based on getting the word out, right?
Yeah,
And so you saw an opportunity, you started to get into that, but go a bit deeper. I'm really interested on how you saw an opportunity in the marketplace, and then how you turned that into a business opportunity for yourself.
Sure. So I think my biggest thing with this is that I was bringing people into my business, and they were so excited because you know what it's like when you have your business and you have this vision of where you want it to go. It's the same thing with direct sales. You come in, you learn about the possibilities in direct sales. Because I personally know a lot of people that make over $100,000 a month doing direct sales. They're making a lot of money. So I know the vision, I know other people have seen the vision. So they're super excited about it. And they get involved, and they're teachers, or they work for 911, like their emergency response, or they're lawyers, or they're stay-at-home moms, or they're, all these different gamuts of professions. And a lot of them don't know how, as I said earlier, to follow up with their customers. So what I was seeing was that people were coming in, they're so excited at the beginning, and then the excitement kind of goes down as they sell their first little groups. Nobody starts a business with them. And then they kind of get some rejections about starting the business. And then they get some people saying, oh, isn't that, illegal pyramid scheme or whatever. And so you see a lot of these people really start to lose that enthusiasm. And it's really sad. And so I went from watching somebody who really did not like their job to going, oh my gosh, I can make enough money in my direct sales company that I can leave my job and I can be home with my kids, to having that realization that I can make this happen, to then all of a sudden going, you know what, I'm going to quit. And that broke my heart. I was like, oh, you're kidding me. Like, you are going to give up on that dream and continue your work, like at the career that you're at right now. I was just like, it just really hurt. So that's where I was like, there's got to be a tool that they can use. So I looked for that tool, and it wasn't there. So I created it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you talked about Amway being probably the big one. They probably have their own tool to provide to their direct sales people, but some of the newer entrants, they don't, from what I understand.
Yeah, so there's thousands and thousands of direct selling companies, and some have their own back office and some don't. Some that do have their back office will still use Fiitfu because they want to track their prospects, and maybe they have more than one business. I've got photographers and people that do network marketing, or I've got, so they might track their companies on Fiitfu as well. So some of the larger organizations definitely will have their own, but I like to stress the fact that you want to own your database, because the database is the foundation of your business. So if you're using somebody else's CRM, that's part of an organization, that's their material too. When you decide to leave, they're going to keep all that information. So
how do you go from that notion, because we've all had ideas, but it's actually the execution, and especially when it's not in your direct wheelhouse.
Right.
You're extremely outgoing, you've got this tremendous sales ability, and I can see that you're going to drive through, but now you're talking about creating software. What's the first step?
Super scary. So my first step was kind of laying it all out on paper, thinking, okay, this is what I want it to do. So what I did is I took my knowledge of selling and of following up and of and what you should do if you give somebody a sample, or what you should do if you do a sale, or what you should do if you have a prospect that's interested in hosting an event for you or in the business. And so anything that, what I wanted to do was instill some of that knowledge into the CRM. So I interviewed a bunch of programmers, like firms. I wasn't going to just hire one person.
So
I hired a firm.
Stop there. You said you jotted it down. So in today's parlance, that would be like prototyping or wireframing.
Yeah.
But you're just with a piece of paper kind of drawing it out.
Yeah.
And what year is this?
2010.
Okay, so the iPhone was out, Android was starting to be, this whole notion of apps was coming into the... So you had at least some semblance of where you're going, and you'd probably worked with a lot of software in these bigger companies.
So I was looking at, I investigated CRMs like Salesforce, SalesNow, HighRise, Backpack, all these different ones that were out there, but none were specific to people in direct sales.
Got it.
And they didn't help them. It would host the information, but I wanted that extra little bit. So if somebody was to say, okay, I had a meeting with so-and-so, Fiitfu would come up and say, this is what I want you to do next.
Got it.
Yeah.
So as a training tool baked into it, coming from that notion that you saw these salespeople getting, what's my next move, and it's not working for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so you've taken the napkins, you've pasted them all together, you've Post-it noted up the wall. What's the next step?
So I took that to the programming group that I decided to work with.
Okay.
And I said,
how did you decide to work with them? Did you interview some different?
I interviewed some different ones.
And at this point, it was local Vancouver software companies?
Software company, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
And they were hired guns that would build apps or web apps that you could tell them, do this, do that, do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Big company in Vancouver. And
did they quote it for you? Did they?
Well, that's what I had to do next. So then I had to say, how much is it going to cost me to do this?
Right.
So then they gave me a number.
Was it a big number? 6 figures? 5 figures?
It was 5 figures.
Okay.
Yeah.
So something that you could wrap your head around.
Just under 6 figures.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They knew how to sell to you.
That's right.
Yes. Okay.
And 99 cents.
Fair enough. And what was the promise? What would that take you to kind of like a 1.0 version that you could sell? Or?
Basically, yes. And so,
Got it.
My initial version was very small and limited to what it is now today, because it was just kind of what I was thinking. What are your money making activities in direct sales? Have a party, do a one-on-one, give a sample, get somebody to join your business. So those were kind of the main things that I focused on. I got to be able to track events. I got to be able to track samples. I got to be able to track orders, and I got to be able to track my clients and my prospects. And how am I going to do that? So those are kind of the 4 main elements that I was really focusing on: recording that meeting, writing it down. What's your next follow up? Gave them a sample. When do you follow up with them? Did an event. When do you follow up with them? That sort of thing.
Got it. Yeah. And for that, let's say $100,000 minus a penny. Yeah. Did you raise funds, or did you write the check yourself?
No, I found out what I needed to get started, and I went to, what I did is I did a business plan, a proper business plan, and I had projections in there, 1 year, 2 year, 5 year projections, And I went to the people that are in direct sales that I knew had money. And I said, this is what I want to do. What do you think? And they said, oh, you hit the nail on the head. And then I said, great, do you want to invest? And 5 of them did. And I probably talked to about 7 or 8 people.
Okay, that's not typical.
No.
But you were smart in picking that people, not necessarily financiers or venture capitalists, these were people that understood the pain point.
Yes.
And also had some money.
Yeah.
And what was the general deal structure, without going into too much details? Like, how did you learn to do a cap table or equity? Like, what did that look like?
I didn't even know what that meant. I just figured, okay, if this is how much it's going to cost me to make this, I want to hold on to a minimum 55% of the company. So depending on how many investors I want to get, I'll give you 5%. So each person, I gave them 5% for the initial investment.
And so in hindsight, in today's terms, that would probably be like seed investment or early venture.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm so lucky because my investors are silent investors and they don't bug me at all. And it's really awesome because I can run my business. And even though they're my business partners, I run my own business.
Because you hear horror stories of early days, you're giving away X amount, and then all of a sudden you're down to a minority stake, and when the smoke clears, you've got 5% of your company, and you're the CEO with a job, essentially.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Were there any that along the way cashed out and said, I'm out? Are they still with you?
They're all still with me.
Okay.
One at one point asked if she could cash out, if I knew anybody, and I said, well, I can take a look to see. I wasn't prepared at the time to buy her out, because I was investing all my money back into the business.
Right.
Because I had feature creep.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're all still with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to keep this on track and pick away at as many details that you're going to gloss over as I possibly can, because people are at the edge of their seat saying, how do I do this?
Yeah.
So roll back. When you're working with this software development company, there has to be a tremendous amount of trust in that you're maybe feeling your confidence might not be there, that you know exactly what you're buying and what they're selling. How did you establish that rapport?
So they were great. So I knew the owner of the company, which helps, right?
Yep.
It always helps to get a referral, but make sure you can work with them first, right? You get a referral, you get to know the person, get to know if you can trust them or not, talk to the other people that they worked with, so that you know what kind of relationships you're going to be in. And then the other key point was that we had a schedule set out before we get started so that we knew when we were going to be meeting to see what the updates were along the way. So there were so many updates that were like, okay, this is what I wanted to do next, this is how it's working, where are we at, all that kind of stuff. And so we had a deadline date of, let's say it was, I think it was supposed to be January of 2011. I think we ended up soft launching in April. So you have to have a little wiggle room there, right? And but I think that what was really important was the fact that the expectations were set as to when we were going to meet, what I expected to be done, what they said realistically they could get done. Because the good thing usually about IT people is they're pretty realistic, or they should be, about how fast that things can get done and can't get done. So when you consider we started in October of 2010, to do that by April was pretty good.
I've got a picture here of interface. This is probably version 3 or 4 or 5 or something.
Yeah.
But in 2010, 11, were you just dealing with desktop software, essentially?
Yes.
Or on a laptop, essentially?
Yeah, just desktop software.
Got it.
Yeah. And we're changing again, so in a couple of months it'll look completely different than that. Yeah,
because it's never done, right?
It's always evolving. It's like, things have changed so much. And this platform here has only changed once, actually. That look has only changed once since inception. So it's a little old looking, and so that's why we're doing a new UX design that's been created, and our team's working on changing it now. Yeah.
So that company you were dealing with, was it simply a fee for service, or were they getting involved as investors?
No, they weren't getting involved. Okay. But I will tell you that was the biggest bane of, drove me crazy, that I did not have control of when the job was done and I needed changes to be done. I was now the low on the totem pole, because they had big contracts to work on. They had, university, banks, whatever it is that they were working with. And so for me to get a job done that might have taken a day, I'd have to wait 3 or 4 weeks because they wouldn't put their people on for me. So that drove me nuts, not having control of when my stuff was going to get done. So that's when I hired somebody on contract who actually left that company, and I said to her, do you want to come and work for me? And she did.
Got it.
Yeah.
So now you're in control. You can stipulate the timeline and what the products or the features are that you're doing. Did you experiment at all with any other type of development overseas?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, tell me about that, since it sounds like a doozy.
You know what? Listen, I use Upwork for things like data entry, simple things, right? Or even Design Crowd. Sometimes I'll use that for if I want a new logo or some ideas on new things and that sort of thing. But I have to tell you that dealing with local people is so much better than trying to deal with overseas people. And I've tried it a number of times, and it just did not work. You know, whether it's a language barrier, it's a time barrier. Time is huge. You're Skyping like at 10 p.m. and it's 3 a.m. their time or whatever it is. It was really, really hard. And if you're a control freak, which you probably are because you're an entrepreneur, you need to have those people local, right? Because then you can see them, you can talk to them, you can see the expression in their eyes, you can tell whether they're lying to you or if they really understand it or not. Because when you're talking on the phone and somebody's talking in an accent that you can't really understand and you don't know the intonation of what they're saying and all those different things, they might say, yeah, I know exactly what you need, and then it doesn't work out.
I guess the promise is that it can potentially be cheaper.
Yes.
And there is a worldwide skills.
And there's more people, yeah, because it's very hard to find good IT people.
So when you went from just contract work with a company, you're probably paying hundreds of dollars an hour or whatever it might be. When you brought that person in more of a freelance, were you saving some money at that point?
So she worked for me as a contractor as well, because she did not want to come into the office, and she was very good at what she did, but she worked the craziest hours. She would work from 10 p.m. until 3 in the morning or something like that, and I'd just be like, oh, can't you just like work when I'm working? So that was still frustrating. It didn't solve my problem. I thought it would solve my problem, but it didn't. It wasn't until I brought people in-house to my actual office that I started feeling a lot better about my team. We started having stand-ups. We started doing things like that, where you can't really do that when you are working with people from overseas.
Right.
It's very difficult to do unless you find like a time. If it's 8 a.m. your time, it's 10 p.m. their time. You could do a stand-up, but they're going to bed. They're going to forget about what you just talked about. Instead of having it fresh, you're ready to go.
So what sort of networks did you plug into to learn terms like stand-up meetings and agile and different ways of working?
Yeah, so that's a great question. You know how they always say you always have to hire to your weaknesses? You have to hire to your weaknesses. And so I hired a friend of mine, actually, who is an amazing girl that knows tons about all of that stuff, because she's a programmer, and she's worked with all these large organizations who had all this stuff put in place. So I was familiar with processes and procedures, basic ones, like if somebody cancels, what do you do? Or when somebody phones, what do you do? So I could look after sales, and I could look after marketing, and I could look after my customer service people and my virtual assistants and all that kind of jazz, and they would know their processes. But when it came to IT, I had no idea. So I had to hire somebody for them to say, well, you should be using Jira, and you should be using Slack, and you should be doing, this process, and this is the software or the plugins that we should be using, and da-da-da-da. And then she gets the IT people on board, and it was much more relaxing. So I was able to hire somebody that I could trust, that was very good at what she did, and that other people in IT really liked dealing with her.
And so you're starting to add people. Is this essentially, other than that initial investment, is this a bootstrapped company and that you're making enough money to pay these people?
Yes, yeah. So
that seems rare in this world of, we're just going to...
I know, and I look at those people that are raising millions of dollars to start their business, and I'm like, maybe I should have done that, because my investment that I had got from my initial investors, was gone as soon as it was made. So I need to start making money right away. So we started making money, and I was doing a lot of guerrilla marketing. I was going to conventions. I was calling people. I was going out to meetings. I was doing presentations to real estate stores or real estate offices, whatever I could to make a sale. And then, it evolved, and then we started making money, and then I started hiring people. And then I think we've, in 2019, in the end of 2017 to 2018, we had up to 7 different employees that we were hiring, and that included 3 IT people. So, yeah.
So what's the basic underlying business model of Fiitfu? Is it a subscription model directly to the salespeople?
Yes.
Okay.
So you have you always have choices of who you're going to sell to. And my decision to sell to the end user, because it's subscription based, it was a faster sale. So I tried to sell to the larger organizations. So I'll use Arbonne as an example, because I was in conversations with Arbonne, because I had over 1,000 Arbonne independent customers using Fiitfu. So working with the IT department at Arbonne, and they would say, well, okay, what's it going to cost? What can you do? Can we do this? Can we do that? And so then I would get my IT team on all that information. What can we do? How much is it going to cost? How much is it going to cost you? And then they would have to do an evaluation of what it would cost, how long it will take, and then I have to put a proposal together. And we've just spent a week trying to figure this out. Then I would go back to Arbonne, and I would say, this is what it's going to do. And they'd say, well, can you do blah, 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 blah? And then I'd be, can I do blah, blah, blah? And then they say, sure, you can do that. And so then they come back. So it's a long process. And in the end, so you're spending money, because time away from what you're supposed to be doing is money. And in the end, Fiitfu is a very small company. We've got one language. Arbonne is in 20 different countries. They need, 15 different languages. And so they go with Salesforce. So I spent all that time and all that money, and I did this a few times, and I went, you know what? I'm going to focus my efforts where I'm making my money. And a lot of people will say, why don't you go to the big conglomerate? I'll say, when I have enough money to have a team just to sell to those people, to dedicate 100% of their time to that, then maybe I'll do that.
So the Arbonnes and Mary Kays of the world, do they see Fiitfu as an annoyance or an alliance?
It's a good question. So some will see us as an alliance. Some will see us as competition.
Okay.
Because if Arbonne has their own CRM, you know that they're telling their leaders to use their CRM, because the rotation of consultants that come through in direct sales, unfortunately, is still pretty high. So when they sell to a few different people and it goes into the Arbonne CRM, Arbonne can still communicate with those people and still sell to them. So, yeah.
So along the way, did you develop native apps for iOS and Android?
Yeah, for both, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we did. And so those apps, that was interesting because, the process of trying to get those. So the original person that we used in Vancouver base was great, but super expensive, right? So then I thought, oh, okay, well, I'll hire somebody overseas to fix it up and whenever there's a problem. And that was really hard to do. But the Android app and the iPhone app are just limited to the features that you can use on the desktop.
Got it.
Yeah.
And when you talk about, we won't jump too far ahead, but you're doing a whole UX redesign, you're going with a native web app, or sorry, just
it's going to be responsive.
A responsive web app.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now when you're on your phone or your tablet, you're just going to log into your Fiitfu account on Safari or whatever browser you're going to be on.
Got it.
Yeah.
I've got a fun video that sort of really captures the market you're going after and the solution you've got. And then we'll touch on some more questions after this.
Okay, great. Thanks.
All moms are the best. All moms are the best. My mom is she's always there to help me. No matter what time it is, no matter where it is, she always wants to help me, and that's very special.
Hi, my name is Mary-Jane Mehlenbacher, and I'm the founder of Fiitfu CRM Solutions. And I created Fiitfu because I wanted women to be more efficient and effective in their businesses. And in doing that, become profitable quicker. And in turn, the ultimate goal is to allow you to spend more time with your family. So this point about being together more with your family became so apparent to me when my daughter actually said to me one day,
Mom, I need to talk to you, but I need to look you in the eye.
And you would imagine my ultimate surprise when she actually came out and said,
Thank you for all the things that you've done for me. We paint and stuff. Sometimes we cook together, eat pizza and play. Play on the merry-go-round.
We play board games, we read. Well, we play board games, we read together.
We mainly watch movies. Play. I like to wrestle with her. My mom makes dresses. She's good at understanding people what they need.
She helps women in business so they get to spend more time at their home with their family.
This is what I hold on to when my mom's getting ready for work. I help her at trade shows.
Me and my mom talk business a lot because I'm her marketing department.
I want to be a coach.
I want to be an engineer. He wants to be a cook or veterinarian or something. Or a zookeeper.
I want to have my own business one day.
One day I'd like to own my business, maybe own a dance studio.
My mom is good at communicating with people.
My mom is the best mom in the whole wide world. My mom's fun.
Fun. Also smart.
My mom's number one.
Smart, silly. The best mom in the world is my mom.
My mom is awesome.
So this is why we do what we do at Fiitfu, is so that you as a mom get to spend more time with your kids in the end and still have a successful business.
My mom's on.
Who's the boss of the house?
Well,
Us.
us.
When she's mad at, in her business, when she's mad at a client, she can make it sound like she's not mad at the client and help.
Mom, are you on Facebook or are you working?
I'll have my own business.
What do you want to do?
Play. My mommy's the entrepreneur.
My mom's the best mom in the world.
Bye-bye.
So fun, and no offense to the men, because it talks about moms, but for both men and women to have their own business so they can be at home with their babes is just so amazing and just such a powerful thing for the kids, for sure.
Well, it talks to specialization, right? You know who your market is, you know who you're going after. How do you actually reach those moms that are doing this direct sales? What's you mentioned guerrilla tactics.
Yeah, it's really difficult because if I was selling to realtors, I could just go to a real estate office, or if I was, selling to schools or whatever it might be. But because I'm selling to people that are in direct sales, they all have full-time jobs, or a lot of them have full-time jobs. So I started by going to the people that I knew in the industry already from being in the industry for 6 years. So I went to them and I asked them when they were doing their training, I said, can I come and do a training on follow-up? And I'll showcase Fiitfu. Or if they were doing their car presentations, so if you reach a certain level, you get a car. So I said, can I come and speak? And I'll do a thing on training, because they want to train their teams, right? So I started by doing that. Then when there was a convention, and I knew people that were going to be at a convention for these direct sales companies, because if you've ever been to one of the direct selling company conventions, has anybody been there to any of them? Yeah, lots of people, right? So in Vegas, 10,000 people at one convention. So what I did is I emailed the girls that I knew and that were already using Fiitfu, and I said, bring your team on your break, because I would get the schedule. And I would say, I know that on Tuesday you have a break from 11 till 1:30. I said, I'm going to feed you, come to my room, and I would do a presentation on Fiitfu. So they would bring people in. And so when I would go to Whole Foods and I would buy a bunch of sandwiches, and I would do guerrilla marketing that way. And then one year I ended up getting a gazebo outside by the pool, and I was serving margaritas and signing people up by the pool and showing them how to use Fiitfu.
So it's totally unauthorized by the actual...
100%, yeah. I was just yeah.
Because you could perhaps be a preferred vendor and buy an 8x8.
Yeah, not very many people do that, though. So there's a few that do it. So I would become a vendor, though, at different networking events like this one. So I would go to eWomen Network and Swan, and eWomen Network is the big one. So I've gone to Dallas. I've gone to some other places. There's a group called Sassy Suite. So you find who kind of markets already to that group. And you find a way to infiltrate into that group. And then I do some stuff on Facebook. I do some advertising on Facebook, because you can choose your markets, and you can say, okay, I want to choose females that are this age in this area that are interested in Arbonne, New Skin, Beauty Counter, blah, blah, blah. And so you can be very specific and do some marketing there. So that's
one way that I started, and then can I talk
Sure,
about
yeah.
how I evolved that a little bit?
Yep.
So then what I realized, what I needed to do is I needed to talk to the leaders, right? I always need to talk to the leaders because one leader could have 1,000 people in their downline, which are my customers, could be my customers. So I needed to have a reason to call the leaders and for them to introduce Fiitfu to their team. So originally, I talked about the benefits and features of their team following up with their customers, getting repeat sales, higher retention of their consultants, higher retention of all the customers. Everybody makes more money. But it wasn't enough. So okay, what do I need? What do I need? A lot of team leaders would say to me, well, how do I put my email templates into Fiitfu? Or how do I put my forums or my follow-ups? Because it's different for my team members as opposed to how Fiitfu defaults. And so I said, well, okay. So I talked to my team, and a couple of the girls said, well, why don't you create a team account? And I said, oh, what do you mean? And they're like, well, you have one thing, and then the team account person can have an admin page, and then she can share all her follow-ups, her secret for success, her system for success. She can put it into Fiitfu. So I'm like, I love that idea. So we implemented team accounts about maybe 2.5, 3 years ago. And so what that means now is I can go to a leader and I can say, look, you can buy a team account and you can put all of your information in there, all your templates, all your forums, all your follow-ups, all your interests, all the things that you want your team members to do, you can control it. So you can have control of their procedures when they make a sale.
And these teams you're talking about are back to that whole
The
pyramid without a pyramid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I would sell that to a team leader, and then I'd say, part of your team account is you get a free webinar with me. You bring your team members on board, and I'll do a training. I'll do 2, actually. And so they'll say, okay. And I'll say, and if you have more than 20 people on my call, I'll give you guys all a discount. So that's where it shifted. Now they're doing the marketing for me because I've got a great tool for them to be duplicatable, which is key in direct sales. You have to be duplicatable. So this is making them duplicatable. They're on board. They get it. They're introducing their team. And then, my webinars will be up to, 300, 400 people. Yeah, it might be 20, it might be 100, might be.
And so your subscription model, is it primarily month to month, or do people
It's
pay
a combination. Some pay annually and some pay month by month. When I need it
What's the breakdown there, do you think?
When I need an influx of money,
Yeah.
I give a big discount on the annual, and then they'll all buy the annual, and then I'll get my cash.
Got it.
And then
So to that point, what role is like couponing and coupon codes played in the marketing of it?
Yeah, so initially I played a lot, but I don't anymore because I don't want to devalue the
Right.
product. It's such a good product.
And may I ask what it costs an individual?
Yeah, $19.95 a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a set it and forget it
Yeah,
to a degree. Do
to a
you
degree.
notice, are you able to see from the back end, like people's usage? Are some, I guess it's somewhat like a gym membership, some
Yeah.
use it and.
That's the problem, right? Some people will buy it, they'll see the value in it, so they buy it, but then they're not using it. So part of our changes that we're doing is some implementation of push notification and also to make it stickier, some gamification. So you got to change. People want this instant gratification this day and age, right? Everybody wants something so fast, so fast. I'm at Pilates this morning at 7 a.m. and I've got somebody phoning me, the same person, like 3 times. I'm like, why don't you leave a message? I'm like, I'm not going to answer your phone call. But they want it, right? They want instant gratification and instant, so we have to evolve with that. Like, whatever is happening out there in society, in the industry, you got to continue to evolve your business so that you can catch up. Because I tell you right now, I don't feel like I'm staying caught up because I haven't launched my new UX now and I'm
Right.
behind. And so I need to get that done.
Got it. I want to get to some questions from other folks, but I did have one slide that you sent that I thought was just so key. As someone who's not nearly as outgoing as yourself, who just despises the whole pestering people and so forth, I thought this was super interesting. So some follow-up statistics.
Yeah.
And tell me about this. So
Yes. This is really important. So the problem is that when you are making a sales call, depending on what your product is, the average person is going to take about 12 touches before they'll actually purchase. And I think this is so important because if you are not following up with your customers, don't feel bad because you're part of the percentages that don't. Like, there's only 10% of us that will follow up more than 3 times. But one of the key things that you have to remember is that a follow-up doesn't always have to be a sales call.
So you talk about badgering people, don't want to be a nuisance, that sort of thing. You have to forget about follow-up being a sales call, and you have to determine and realize that the more you know about your customer, the easier it is going to be to follow up with them. So Amber, I know that you have a bookstore. I met you earlier. Maybe I find out your birthday. Maybe I read a new book, or maybe I want a new book, and I could say, Amber could be a good potential customer for me for Fiitfu. Maybe I'll follow up with her and say, hey, I just wanted to let you know I saw your video from the Startup Grind. It was really awesome. Congratulations. And you'll go, oh, isn't that nice? And then I might call her on her birthday, and hey, you gave me your birthday, and da-da. And so what's happening is I'm following up with her. I'm creating a relationship with her, and she's remembering me and my product. Now, you don't want to falsify the relationship that you're trying to build to sell something, but what you want to do is you just want to create that relationship so that people know that you care. So if you don't have anything, like if you have a prospect and you haven't heard from them in a little while and you think they're going to be a really hot prospect and you've followed up 2 times and you have to do a 3rd one, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be a nuisance, I don't know what to do. All you need to do is think back, what did you talk about? What are you selling to them? What are their interests? And follow up with them based on their interests. Do their kids play hockey? Hey, you know what? I just wanted to talk to you. Or maybe they're golfers. Oh, you could phone them up and say, hey, I remember our conversation. You're a golfer. Can you believe that Tiger Woods won? Isn't it amazing? Blah, blah, blah. Just was thinking about you. Talk to you soon. You know, that could be a follow-up. It's as simple as that. And then it just makes it easier every time you call them. The more information you can keep on your customers, the easier it will be for you to continue to follow up with them. Follow up for their birthdays, follow up for their anniversaries, follow up based on their interests, follow up when you get a new article that you think people will like. If you're a research scientist, here you are, and you know people are interested in dolphins or whatever, because we were talking about dolphins earlier, that's why I use that as an example. But with your database, start tracking people based on what they're interested in, so that if you have a new article about dolphins, or if you've got a new article about your speaking series that you have coming up, and you could say to somebody, hey, I know that you're interested in public speaking and you're a little bit nervous about it.
So have you completely profiled the entire audience? It's amazing. No, but I mean, that all makes sense, and it does. So what about for a person that just doesn't come natural? Like, is that where something like Fiitfu?
So that's where I call them the natural follow-ups, because the natural way to follow up with somebody is based on what their interests are. So if you know somebody's birthday is this month, then you have a product that you can sell that is that you could discount. You could email them 10 days before their birthday and say, hey, I see it's your birthday coming up. And then on their birthday, send them a happy birthday email. And then 10 days later, say, hey, before your birthday, I sent you a little promo. Do you want to take advantage of it? If not, no worries. I'll get you next year, or I'll talk to you about new products coming in. Or if you've got new products, that's a great opportunity to phone people and just say, I just want to let you know we've got some great new training videos out, and I think you should know about them because they're really fantastic. I'm super excited about them. Do you want me to send you a copy and you can take a look and see what you think? It's not selling them.
Can I give you my credit card?
It's just educating.
No, it's fantastic.
It's just educating people and staying connected with them for all the right reasons. Yeah, it's not about you, it's about them.
Well, let's turn it over to the audience for some questions, because I'm sure you have some. Michael's got a mic. Just put your hand up and we'll make sure it gets recorded. So up here we've got Trevor.
It occurred to me when we were going through the history of the transition between, kind of the day job and running your own business.
Yeah.
Was there a transition period between the big idea, getting some funding around it, where you consulted with people one-on-one and kind of got a feel for the landscape, or did you just know enough from working in direct sales to jump right into that business model and launching the product?
It's a great question. And I went to a number of business executives to talk about what I was going to. I believed so much in what I was doing, and I was still working my direct sales business, and I was trying to run Fiitfu at the same time. So there was a transition there, but I did consult with a lot of people about the best way to go about doing this. How should I do it? I was using my own marketing. And then, as an example, we were lucky enough to know Jim Chilliwack from Boston Pizza. And so I went for lunch with him one day. I just phoned him up out of the blue. We don't know him that well. My husband does business with Boston Pizza. We've been at a couple of big organizational meetings, like big party things with him. So I've introduced myself to him before. I just called him up one day and said, hey, you know what? I'm Darren Davis' wife. Do you remember me at the event? Really would like to talk to you about business. Do you mind if I take you out for lunch? He's like, sure.
So we sat for an hour. It's in my I think it's in one of my blogs from way back, my Facebook post. This is
He
like,
was on Dragon's Den, right?
he's on Dragon's Den.
Yeah, okay.
So I got free advice. That was back in 2011. That was 2011. And, but then I talked to other people that were in the industry, what do you think is the best way to do this? And I think the key is that people will give you ideas on how to run your business, but you'll know the best way to run it. You really will. And I think if you stick with your gut feeling that this is going to work and this niche market is going to work, because you have a niche market. We talked about it a little bit. And don't stray from that, because it's going to be so much easier for you to market to that group of people based on what your expertise are, right? So does that answer your question? I don't know if it does or not.
And more.
Okay, yeah. Thanks.
Anybody else? There must be more. Yes, we've got one up here. Fatima?
How does sorry, am I loud enough?
Yeah.
How is the Fiitfu? How does it compare to some other CRMs that are out there on the market?
So it's a great question. So what differentiates us is the fact that anytime you do anything within your CRM, within Fiitfu, we'll give you a nudge to plan your next follow-up. So we'll give you ideas on how to do your next follow-up. So as an example, what kind of product do you sell, or do you?
It's educational products. So I mentor university students in So
Perfect.
One-on-one coaching, but also offering short programs.
Okay, so a great example would be if somebody signs up for a short program and you record that in Fiitfu, we would suggest, okay, so they've purchased this program or whatever it is, then you might have a reminder after 3 months to follow up with them to do their next program. So because they've done one program, they'll probably do another and another and another if you follow up with them. So Fiitfu, the difference is that we'll nudge you. We'll say, we actually have like a list. If you haven't talked to somebody in 6 months, Fiitfu has a list that says, hey, you haven't talked to somebody in 6 months. So you can click on that and it brings them all up, and then you can go through them all and go, oh gosh, I should really follow up with these people, shouldn't I? So yeah, and that's kind of what makes us a little bit different. And then we've got, I like to call it your virtual office, because you can do emails from it, you can do online client profiles from it, you can track events from it, you can do so many things. You can do orders from it. So because we're more than an email thing, we're more than a CRM, we're what you had said earlier, Tim, that we're like a training tool. We're almost like a training tool, so.
And I guess you're up against like Salesforce and other huge things, which are very, very expensive, but also massive companies.
Yeah, and that's a good point
And I think
too,
it's that narrowly defined niche that you're in. That
and it's made for the individual, whereas a lot of CRMs like Salesforce are made for the manager to then see what his team is doing or her team is doing, as opposed to it just being yours. It's your business all online. Yeah.
Got it. We've got one up or right back there, and then we'll come to Karen.
So it looks like right now you have a native Android app and iPhone app, and you said with your new redesign you're going to go just responsive. So are you killing the native apps?
We are, yes.
Have you talked with your users about not having an app? Because there's so many people now that they want that app experience.
Yeah.
Have you talked to them about saying, hey, we're going to kill the app and we're going to do this native thing or the responsive thing?
Yeah, we have started to talk to them about it. We get a lot of complaints about our apps, actually, so I think it's going to be okay. because Fiitfu has so many features on it that you can't do on your app, that they want the features. And so we tell them that it's going to be responsive, so that when they're on their phone, it will almost look like an app because of the button layouts and all that kind of jazz. And so far, they've been very responsive to it themselves as well. But I have not done like a big blast and to get feedback and that sort of thing. But it's a good question, and I think that's something that we will be doing as we have more of our pages ready to go, so that we can get an idea from our customer base. One thing that we have within Fiitfu is we have you can go to our Facebook page and like us. That would be really nice if you did that, thank you. But then we also have a members page, and so on our members page I've posted some ideas of what we're going to be doing, so I can start getting feedback there. So yeah. Yeah, so in a roundabout way, we kind of are, yeah.
That is a big decision, isn't it? Because if you're doing 2 native apps and a web, you're basically doing a development stack on 3 different platforms.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's different philosophies around that. And I would think for a small shop, it makes sense to do the one and have it feature rich across all platforms.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it would be, our team wouldn't be able to do the Android and the iPhone and everything and get it all out in a timely manner. By the time we were able to get it out, the technology would change again, and we'd have to do another UX update. And
Got it.
yeah, so.
So we'll finish with a question from Karen.
Thanks. Mary-Jane, I'm just curious, have you had any adapters come on and do something unexpected with Fiitfu? Like any businesses that you didn't? Like what, has anybody come on and used it for something
Other than
other than
people in direct sales? Yep, we have lots of people that are, like I have photographers, I've got a builder, I've got some people that sell dentures or something like that. There's actually an office that does that. I've got a team in Toronto that probably shouldn't be using Fiitfu because I'm giving them a very good deal, but I think he's got about 100 people using one Fiitfu account. Like they've got thousands and thousands of customers, and I think they're like a cleaning service or something like this. And so, yeah, there's definitely some people that are taking advantage. Not that I'd mind, I don't mind, I love that they're using it, but there's definitely other people that are using Fiitfu other than direct sales. But the majority of our people are in direct sales, and I still market towards direct sales people. Yeah.
Well, let's hear it for Mary-Jane.
Thank you. That's awesome. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
That's great.
There's 4 of us involved making this happen. There's myself and Colin Smith, who's been recruiting. He actually recruited Mary-Jane, which is fantastic. Michael, who's been doing a lot of behind-the-scenes activity as well, and my son Aiden on the tech. So let's hear it for all those folks. We've got our next 2 meetings set up. May 14th, we've got Jared Falk. He's from Missouri Media / Drumeo. Drumeo is an online drumming school based out of Abbotsford, and it's just an amazing story. So I'm really excited to welcome Jared. And then in June, I've recruited Ken. He's actually a new member here at Grind Chilliwack. They're a software company, and they have the largest database of wound photography and care in Canada. It's amazing. They have more than 10,000 health workers using their platform every day, basically helping people heal. So who knew? Who knew? So that's happening in June, and we'll keep them coming. This is Startup Grind Chilliwack. Thanks so much. Good. Thank you. Great.